Good evening, everyone. It is hard to believe that it is already Friday, August the 1st today. There's not too much to report in terms of soybean production this week, but some of those mid-maturing beans, including the brand new P007, Z82Es, are really reaching the full height of what we're expecting from them. They are still branching out a little bit more, and we're seeing that those top flower clusters are still blooming, but really the focus over this next month is going to be filling up those pods as much as possible in anticipation for harvest. So what we really need is some consistent good rains over the next month to help build that seed size and as a result build yield as well. We have had some reports from our forage customers that are taking their third cut right now that there's a lot of lepidopteran insects on their equipment. So that includes things like soybean loopers as well as green clover worms. We've scouted for them here but haven't found a lot in this particular field, but there are some grasshoppers here. So those insects are going to be treated the same at this point in the season. We're looking for 20% whole plant defoliation to justify an insecticide application. We're still scouting for soybean aphids as well as spider mites, but we haven't found them yet. But that is mostly an August problem in Manitoba. So we'll keep looking and we'll keep you posted. So I've moved south into the Vita area, and right now I'm standing in a field of P8294 Acre Max. This is a grain corn field that was planted relatively early into ideal moisture conditions and even got a couple of rains after planting. So as a result, we have a really consistent stand here. Even looking across the top of this, all of the tassels are at the same height and at the same stage of development. So that's great to see for any corn crop. We've gone in here and pulled some representative ears, and we're finding that on average we have 14 kernel rows around on each ear, and that's a little less than we'd like to see ideally. However, with about 95% pollination in here so far, we're seeing that a lot of those ears are about 40 kernels long. So if we crunch the numbers, a field like this is set up for about 195 bushels per acre of grain corn yield remaining. As long as we don't dry up too much and have some tip back, we're really set up for success in a field like this one. One thing that we should note is that due to some of those extremely hot and extremely dry soils right after planting, we're seeing that a lot of fields, especially on heavier ground, have 20 to 25% late emerging plants. So that's a bit of a concern, both in terms of grain quality and moisture at harvest, but also that we're cutting off some of that top end yield because we just won't have the number of ears per acre that we're looking for top end yields. But again, there's a lot of variability throughout the area. Another thing that we've had some reports on is some tassel wrap, especially south of the border in the Midwest. So that's when that tassel doesn't emerge from the top leaf at the same time as those silks are emerging. So that's a bit of a concern because silking and pollen shed synchronicity is critical for corn. However, overall, we haven't seen this to be a problem in our area. There's a little bit of those tassels that are coming out later on some of the late maturing silage hybrids, but overall, it's not a major concern that we're seeing at this point. The last thing to mention here is just in terms of the immense amount of smoke we've had this summer. Especially in the last week and a half, we just haven't had those daytime temperatures and the nights have been incredibly cool. And as a result, we have a bit of a lower stress amount on our corn, so that's great. So we're not requiring quite as much water for those really hot days that we sometimes see during pollination. So that's great news in terms of what we can expect. On the downside, obviously with all of that smoke, we're not getting as much sunlight into these plants, and as a result, we've slowed down our development a little bit because these plants just aren't producing the sugar that they require right now. But hopefully with some of the weather that we have on this weekend here and the week coming up, we should be able to catch up on some of those corn heat units again. If you have any questions about your crop, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thank you once again for watching the videos this year, and we hope that everyone has a wonderful and safe long weekend. Thanks for watching.